This guy's wife has no emotion. Goes without saying that this anime revolves around a guy who essentially is so shut in that he has no sort of social capabilities to get involved with other people and let alone even date someone. So he ends up buying a housekeeping robot named Mina, which is probably one of the best decisions of his life. And this anime, in a nutshell, has definitely put me on many different kinds of emotions. I know the title of the anime is My Wife Has No Emotions, yet this anime makes me feel so many different emotions because I can understand what it is like to depend on technology, and a lot of people do to this day. And as a person who has recently given up social media entirely, from reading any comments or really involving myself with any sort of social media, it's really made me feel like social media and the technology doesn't really control me. But at the same time, before I gave it up, I was so dependent on technology to let it decide my feelings and emotions, and I really fell in love with it. The same way that Takuma, the main MC from My Wife Has No Emotion, falls for Mina, a housekeeping robot that essentially just does housekeeping work, which involves just cooking for the most part. If she does anything besides cooking, spoiler alert, she kind of does like this promotional cycle, which is really cool. And I love how Mina and Takuma really dive into their relationship, and it sort of feels almost forced in a sense that he is essentially wanting her to be his wife, and she has no choice but to obey because literally he's the owner of this robot. But in a sense, you also get to see what that really does mean. He recently had bought this robot pre-owned. Someone besides Takuma, you eventually figure out, owned Mina at some point in time. Come to find out, that was like the actual original builder of the Mina series, which is very fascinating in a sense. But starting off with Takuma and Mina, they have such a unique dynamic because it's almost like a Kudera falling in love with main MC. Kudera essentially is a character that tries to shy away from showing their emotions. Kudera isn't one of my favorite deades, but I would like to say that Kudera in this series especially works really well because Kudera is often tried to show emotion to grasp onto the MC by sort of like teasing them, but almost like, I don't care about you. But Mina doesn't really do that in this series, and I can commend the writers for really making this short anime, let alone very well produced. I enjoyed every single character, especially Super Mina and the little kid that Mina and Takuma eventually meet, especially the little robot that they get when Mina gets her upgrades. Really builds the dynamic between wife and husband in a sense, because they view this little robot as their own child, because the little robot, I keep forgetting its name, retains Mina's dialect and sort of like her personality in a sense that is different from how it should normally be, which is why Takuma really wants to keep that little robot's personality intact, especially when Takuma's mom buys her own version of that little robot. It comes in the factory setting and the default setting, so it can actually support seniors. That's what its purpose is. But when she gets her version of that little robot, it is almost monotone, like comparing that to Takuma and Mina's little robot child. Their child is a lot more colorful and has personality, which is something that I really love. And the idea of a robot becoming a wife of an actual human being is almost reminding me of how this Asian guy from Japan married Hatsune Miku. If you have not followed this story in the past, it kind of reminded me of that situation, except Miku is essentially a product that you could buy anywhere. It can be anything, a plush, a doll, a bottle like that one. Hatsune Miku could be anything, and marrying that sort of product is really cool and fascinating. I feel like this anime was definitely inspired by that. The concept of this anime is very interesting because normally if you see something like this, you just feel like that this guy is literally a creep that not really trying to make any social relationships, and he struggles with that. He let alone says it from the very beginning that he's always had a struggle in building social relationships. This is obviously very sad in a way because he has to rely on actually creating a relationship with essentially a robot that he blocks out any sort of way of interacting with others. And when he does interact with others, it's very short, like nothing. But when it's with Mina, it's almost like it's a lot more than just a robot doing tasks for you or whatnot, because eventually when he has her do certain tasks as his wife, like laying in bed, she's sort of like, do you like this? She starts questioning and building her own will. And one of the episodes is named something of will. I forget the name of it. She starts to build her own will, and it's almost sentient like, which is very scary and also fascinating at the same time. But the fact that this guy is so reliant and dependent on Mina for happiness is something that I think a lot of people could relate with, which is why this anime very much stands out to me in such a way that it's okay to be dependent on technology. By all means, I think that a lot of people to this day rely on technology so much that, I mean, you see people on VR chat and something of the like, but we've never seen something as far as an actual robot communicating with you. But we do also have the feature of AI chat where you can actually talk to an AI and actually have a full-on conversation with you. I remember back in 2016, Discords used to have bots that you could actually text on your phone, and I would have a full-on conversation with this thing called Rembot, which is basically a personification of the character Rem from Raise Zero, but that was like in beta stage. But nowadays you have full-on AI chats that can actually talk to you because some people are dependent on it. But honestly, that goes to an extent that you shouldn't be fully 100% dependent on it, because it can have repercussions in the long run of your life. Especially since the last time I've ever been on social media, I recently saw that Tesla is actually making their own robots that can communicate with you and have full-on conversations that do household work, such as Mina, which is very interesting and surreal because that's an anime. This is a concept of creative imagination. It's not meant to be in real life, but it actually is starting to develop into real world scenarios that exist. But I honestly love this anime. My wife has no emotion. I would rate it probably a 7 out of 10. I recently finished watching the 12th episode this morning and I absolutely loved it. I mean, if you love a rom-com, but also at the same time somewhat slice of life, but not too ecchi, but still a good sweet tea, then definitely give this one a watch. It's definitely worth it. It has some quirks to it that are not seen in many anime. People would probably skip this anime due to the sheer fact that it's only 12 episodes, and I've given 12 episode animes a very hard time, especially when I'm trying to pick out my own anime that I want to watch. But I have recently started to give these anime a chance, and I absolutely love this one. This one shows how much a loving relationship, no matter what it is, can flourish into something more that can build a person to be a better person for themselves, even if that certain relationship is not even real and is just fabricated. That comes with the repercussion of the fact that that person may be heartbroken one day to figure out that that relationship is 100% fabricated, and it's very sad. But that's on them. If they want to get themselves into that scenario, then that's totally up to them, because at the end of the day, no one gets to make the decision for you to spend your time on this certain technology that you have been dependent on for so long. Honestly, that's my takeaway from the anime. I definitely loved it, and I would highly recommend it to anyone, and especially, I never say it a lot, but the anime ending for this anime is very catchy. and I absolutely loved it. Downloaded it to my Spotify. I would highly recommend you guys give that one a listen because I genuinely enjoyed that anime ending song called Wave. I would definitely love to know what you guys' thoughts on this anime are. I have been No Below. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment down below your guys' thoughts and opinions. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.